Record. Okay, recording.
Excellent, good.
So, my name is Christopher Salinas. I'm an employee of KDAP or CADTP. We are a substance use disorder counselor certifying agency. I'm sure you've heard of us. Me personally, I am a certification specialist. So I have a good general knowledge of the various alcohol and drug counselor certifications offered in California, and more specifically, those of our agency, KDAP. My job is to be where you guys are, where the students are, where people who want to be counselors are essentially. I've done work with California Bridge, organizations that aren't necessarily universities or colleges that are looking to promote the field. So let's jump into this.
You may want to mute yourself, students, during
the presentation.
presentation.
So this is just going to be a review of counselor certification. There will be assets here that you may find valuable regardless of which agency you choose to certify with. So KDAP's mission, our mission, is to provide substance use disorder counselor certification at a reasonable cost with a focus on customer service, you guys being the customers. And in order to reflect that goal, we've adopted the tagline, your profession, your passion, our mission. And that's just because we feel that that best encapsulates our service. So initially, let's talk about the certification of certification agencies, how they're granted that state approval. So the process of accrediting your certification agency in California starts with the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, which we are accredited by. Once approved, that agency needs to have all of their certifications and various credentials, let's say, approved by the California Department of Healthcare Services in order to ensure that those credentials comply with Title IX regulations. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. So that NCCA requires annual reporting, the number of our counselors, as well as reaccreditation every 5 years, which we have continuously maintained since our inception. So that Title IX, all counselors in California, as well as registrants, are required by state law to adhere to any individual really providing counseling services in a program that is licensed by the Department of Healthcare Services. And some of the stipulations being that those credentials, the registration or certification, needs to be obtained from one of the three now certifying agencies, KDAP, CCAP, KD. Of special note, registrants need to be aware that that registration can only be held for 5 years. And the expectation is that within that 5-year period, the registrant becomes fully certified. That is something set forth by the California Department of Healthcare Services and not by the certifying agencies. That registration period can be extended an additional 2 years if the registrant has undergone a hardship. The definition of that hardship will be different for each agency and outlined in their handbook or code of conduct and ethics. After that 7-year period, after you've run out your 5 years, maybe extended it an additional 2, that cannot be extended anymore. And it's not the certifying agency's choice. That is a hard limit set by the state. So a little bit about our organization. Well, we initially formed as a nonprofit association to promote the integrity of and to promote the understanding of California's DUI treatment programs and support them in legislation. But that isn't really the case now. We still have that portion of our association still running. But in 2005, when the Department of Healthcare Services put forth that Title IX regulation, we knew that it was, at that time, we needed to form a certifying agency to continue to support our members. So before that, certification and registration wasn't necessarily required for individuals performing counseling services. So once those regulations came in, we formed the KDAP certification portion of our association. Again, we've been continuously accredited by the NCCA and the Department of Healthcare Services, which allows any of our credential holders to work in a state licensed alcohol and a drug treatment program. So of these state licensed and certified certifying agencies, of course, we have the three, us, KDAP, CCAP, and KD. State regulations allow us to increase our standards of certification as long as they do not contradict regulations. So one of the, if you were certifying or registered with CCAP, you'll find that you are required to get 355 in-classroom hours of education, but state requirements actually only require 315, which is actually what KDAP requires. So 315 for us, 355 for CCAP, and that's fine because it doesn't contradict regulations. And that's to promote the expertise of the field and otherwise promote the standards of care to another level. So some of the very basic requirements that all three of these organizations have, that requirement for students or registrants, individuals who are registering, to complete 9 hours of ethics, confidentiality, and boundaries prior to registration. We call that our orientation course, but that's what it is: 9 hours of ethics, confidentiality, and client boundaries. The requirement for registrants to renew every year, and along with that, renewal for registrants, 3 hours of ethics and 3 hours of confidentiality, as well as the requirement for registrants to show progress towards certification every year, whether that be in the form of unofficial transcripts showing that you're attending a approved course, and making your way towards full certification, or a work hour verification form if you're done with your in-classroom education. As well as the requirement for certification holders when they renew to get 3 hours combined of ethics and confidentiality. So some of the basic requirements of registration and certification, I'm going to go over them here in this section. So in order to maintain counselor standards, all registered and certified individuals need to adhere to these codes of conduct and ethics. There are two: one set forth by the state, the Standard Uniform California AOD Counselor Code of Conduct, as well as the individual certifying agency's specific code of conduct or ethics. That's an expanded code of conduct and ethics that's kind of tacked on to the state requirement code of conduct and ethics. Breach of any of these can result in having your certification revoked or suspended. So a little excerpt here from those codes of conduct from the California AOD Uniform Code of Ethics here. Within 24 hours of the time an alleged violation of the code of conduct becomes known to an AOD treatment program or alcohol and other drug treatment program, the program will report that breach of conduct to the Department of Healthcare Services as well as to the individual certifying organization. That report is going to contain all violations and pertinent facts. Within 90 days of receiving that ethics complaint, the Department of Healthcare Services will issue an order for corrective action if any is deemed necessary. Something to note, the Department of Healthcare Services disciplinary actions, any sanctions that they put forth will supersede any actions put forth by your individual certifying agency. So for example, if your certifying agency doesn't believe that it necessary to have your certification suspended, but the Department of Healthcare Services does, the Department of Healthcare Services sanctions are going to overwrite that of your certifying agency. So once you've signed, dated, and initialed each page of those codes of conduct and ethics, you'll be met with the requirement of that orientation course, or just a course 3 hours ethics, confidentiality, client boundaries. That needs to be taken within a year. So if you've taken a ethics course within the last year that meets this requirement, you can register, but it does need to be taken 12 months prior to registering. Again, once you have registered, you have 5 years to complete the remaining requirements, which are the 315 hours of formal in-classroom education, the 255-hour practicum, and 2,080 hours of work experience. That 255 hours will count towards your work experience, as well as achieve a passing grade on the ICRC examination. So these are KDAP's various levels of certification. In this presentation, I'm only going to be going over the first two, the substance use disorder registered counselor and the substance use disorder certified counselor. The difference between registered and certified, let's talk about that for just a quick moment here. Each certifying agency has a registered credential. They may not call it that, but if it has an R in it, like the RAD-T, RAD-T, that is a registered credential. That is your learner's credential, your learner's license. That allows you to conduct counseling services without being fully certified, to get that practice in to meet the 2,080-hour requirement to become fully certified. So the certified counselor credential, you're fully certified, that is your license, if we think about it in terms of a driver's license. And then the registered, your learner's license. Our other credentials here are separated by work experience and hours of education. They're just to show management in whatever location you're working at, if you're fit for clinical supervision, maybe a promotion, things like that, just to show how long you've been in the field and your level of education. But let's start at the very bottom with registration. This is our initial registration document. Requires a processing fee of $75, an official certificate, which can be in the form of unofficial transcripts from UC San Diego showing that you've taken a ethics course in the last 12 months, a 2x2-inch passport style photograph of yourself, a copy of an official ID or driver's license, both of those codes of conduct, the one given by the state and then the second one given by us. And if you'd been previously registered with another agency, you'd make it known here. The typical turnaround for this document is about 2 weeks. I'll show you how to access this later on in the presentation. Any document you see in this presentation can be found on our website. This is our registration renewal document. Requirements being those same 2 codes of conduct and ethics. You'll need that for just about everything that you'll file for. And instead of 9 hours of ethics and confidentiality, it is a 3-hour course, let's say. 3 hours of CEUs in order to renew. as well as proof in the past 12 months that you're making progress towards your full certification, which can be in the form of unofficial transcripts showing it you are obtaining that 315 hours of formal in-classroom education, or if you're done with that 315-hour formal classroom education part of your counselor's journey, a work experience form here that I can show you how to access on our website as well. Renewal costs $25, but if you're cutting it close to your renewal date and your credentials about to expire, we offer this expedited renewal service here. $50 for a 10-day turnaround, $75 for a 5-day turnaround if you're really cutting it close, and that expedited renewal starts once your application is received at our main office. So this is our full certification application. So requirements being, again, 315 hours of formal in-classroom education. Although for full certification, that's going to be in the form of official transcripts. So official transcripts fully sealed or emailed directly to our main office, or a sealed envelope mailed directly to our main office. We also offer a transcript review service where we'll review your transcript just to inform you whether or not you meet the requirement. You'll need to show documentation of that 2,080 hours of substance use disorder counselor work experience. Within that 2,080 hours, 255 will need to be supervised practicum hours. Again, you'll need both those codes of conduct and ethics, signed, dated, initialed each page, a 2x2-inch photograph of yourself, and the processing fee for this document is $175, but when you pay that, you'll also be paying $175 for the exam, the ICRC Alcohol and Drug Counselor exam, the application. So you'll be filing for 2 applications, $175 each, $350 total. We'll talk a little bit about that exam in a sec. So certification renewal, this is our application here. You'll need to file for renewal every other year, as opposed to every year for registrants. You'll need this renewal form completed, signed, dated, and initialed, those ethics confidentiality sheets, 40 hours minimum of continuing education units of CEUs. 3 of those CEUs need to be ethics and confidentiality, and the renewal here is $135. Again, we have that expedited renewal service here. And depending on your level of certification, the processing fee will vary, as well as the requirement for CEUs. We get a lot of questions about transfers. Simple to transfer is all of the credentials between the certifying agencies all meet the same basic requirements. So you'll need those codes of conduct and ethics, a copy of your previous certification or registration, and again, that state ID or driver's license. Of note, if your previous credential is going to expire within 60 days, you'll want to file for renewal at the same time as your transfer, as you'll maintain your initial registration date for your whole counselor career. It won't change even if you transfer. So that exam, the IC and RC alcohol and drug counselor exam, this is required for certification, whether you're filing for CCAP or KDAP certification. You know that KD has their own test, so this won't really cover that. But this ICRC exam is an expensive test to fail. Again, $175 for the initial application as well as retakes. You'll need to show that you've completed that 315 hours of in-classroom education, that 2,080 hours of work experience, and the 255-hour practicum. We do a transcript review before you're allowed to go into the test, so you'll need to have completed your 315 hours of classroom education. This exam is all based on TAP 21, which we have posted on our website, totally free for you to review. And I do encourage you to review it. The exam is not easy. It's 158 questions, covers topics such as screening, assessment, treatment planning, referrals, as well as ethical responsibilities. And you'll have 3 hours to take that exam. You'll need an official state license or government issued ID with photo and signature in order to be allowed into the exam hall. For help in preparing for this exam, we have resources up on our website. And throughout the remainder of the presentation, I'm going to highlight various aspects of this website, of our website, so you have a good overview of what's available there. And we have some resources here that'll be valuable regardless of which agency you decide to file with. So if you're interested in filing for initial registration or looking at exam prep materials, you would mouse up and over to new and select whatever it is you're looking for in the dropdown. But let's say you're looking for specialty credentials. It's much the same as the new certification or registrant button. On these pages, you're going to find everything you'll need to apply for the available certifications, things like the candidate handbook, renewal forms, any exam information that might be associated with this particular credential, as well as the fees. And so speaking a little bit towards the renewal, you will definitely need CEUs or continuing education units. It is 6 for registrants or registered credential holders and 40 for certification holders. Certifying agencies can be a bit picky as to where they allow you to pick up CEUs. So I'd encourage you to search our education and CEU provider registry or directory in order to make sure we will we'll accept those CEUs. If your CEU provider isn't listed here, you may want to email in and ask. We'll accept any post-accredited college and things like that for individuals taking an ethics course. That'll count towards these required CEUs if we're talking about ethics and confidentiality, client boundaries, things like that. And if you've attended an ethics course within the last year, you can use that to register, or if you're renewing. Each of these certifying or these CEU providers is going to show the modality in which the CEUs are delivered, whether it's in person, online, contact information to get into contact with the provider, the expiration date of their CEU provider status, as well as a rating as rated by our counselors on their service. As part of regulations, each agency needs to have an online service in order to verify counselor certification and registration status, in order to ensure that the credentials are in good standing. Ours is here at Verify, as well as here at Verify, 2 Verify buttons. This is our registry. You can search by their certification or registration number. It doesn't change. Once you're promoted from registered to certified, you maintain that same ID number. You can search by name, and it'll show whether or not the credential is expired or in good standing. Their certification type is here, certification rank 3, clinical supervision. The date that they registered, this individual was grandfathered in from before 2005, so they don't have a registered date, but you might. You have the date that they certified, the date that their certification expired, and if any disciplinary action had been taken against this individual, it would be noted here and expounded upon in details. So moving right along into our next section, resources. This is where you'll find those resources, of course, that will be valuable to you regardless of which agency you file with, KD, CCAP, or KDAP. We post things like regulations as well as the DHCS's alcohol and other drug counselor standards, the IC and RC exam candidate standards, free resources like motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy, and TAP 21, what you will want to study if you are taking the ICRC ADC exam. It's listed here for free, the entire document. We also have a button for the TAP 21 in our new counselors page, but the button's not working right now. So for now, until we get that button fixed, you'll want to browse over to the resources page. So let's say, for example, you select a free resource like the link to motivational interviewing. You'll be taken to the SAMHSA page, specifically addressing MI, where they host some quick reminders, tips for individuals who are new to the field. One of the favorites amongst counselors is the reminder card, Am I Doing It Right? Entitled here. And it's just a free resource for individuals who are new to the counseling field, things to keep in mind when you are practicing motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy, just tips for your study here. We have our payment portal as well under resources, which can be found up here at Counselor Resources or Payment Portal. And so any of the documents I've shown in this presentation can be found on our website. And just as well, any of the documents can be filed for, sent in through our website at the Payment Portal. So you would apply at the top. What exactly are you applying for? Let's say initial registration. You check off the box, $75 processing fee. If you're looking to renew, it would be over here. And any supporting documentation, like your unofficial transcripts for that orientation course, 9 hours of ethics, confidentiality, boundaries, can be uploaded here. Your first name, last name. Let's say if you were renewing and you needed that 10-day rush expedited renewal, you could select that as well, exam retakes, and when you're ready to check out, you would just select next. Another of the favored resources here is our Career Center. So you'll find information for both counselors. Maybe you know someone who's an employer of an SUD or alcohol and other drug treatment program. They can post a job listing here, and any registered or certified individual can select find a job and find an opening. You can search by local locations, keywords, filter by full-time, part-time, a temporary position, and if you are looking for an internship, you can filter for that as well. Find an internship near you. We are coming up on the end of the presentation here. I will take questions after, but just some reminders for individuals that already have their certification or their registration. Keep an eye on your credential, especially if you're cutting it close to expiration. Your job depends upon it, and your employer will be put at risk if it expires and you're unable to work. KDAP, we do send notification 2 months in advance of expiration by both mail and email, but those addresses are not always current, so we'd encourage our credential holders to keep those up to date. Though if they're cutting it close, you can use that expedited renewal option. If you can, we like to use this little tip, in sight, in mind. If you can, post your registration, your physical certificate somewhere in your office that you can see. If you're looking at it every day, admiring it, let's say on your desk, you'll be more likely to realize when it's close to expiration, as well as attend CEU trainings throughout the year. 40 are required every 2 years for that biennial counselor renewal. Or if you are certified, or if you're, registered, you'll need to renew every year. 6 CEUs are required. If you're completing a work hour verification, be sure to include that contact information for your supervisor, as we will need to contact them in order to verify those documents. We have that work hour verification form on our website under the new counselor tab. All of the applications I've shown are on our website. I'd be happy to show you where to find them if you have that sort of question. But this is the end of the presentation. These are our main contact people. If you were to call in today, you'd be talking to Christine. If you emailed in, maybe Shamra or Cassandra. And they truly do stand by our mission to provide you guys with excellent customer service. I think you guys will find that.